Welcome back, everyone, to episode number 35 of the Slap the Ask show. Today we have the Twitter famous Ryan Schadel on the show. He is the CEO of MVCO, former CEO of LTNC, and we're very excited to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on.
Man, I didn't know I was Twitter famous, but I'll take it. Maybe
I feel like
maybe that helped me get
20,000
verified. I've been working on that for a couple of years now.
Really?
Yeah,
There you
go.
We just had our first Twitter verified guest on the last show.
Is that right? Well,
yeah.
there's apparently a loophole where you can be referenced 3 times in an independent article, and that counts as like a publication verification. So I just need to get 3 freelance journalists to write a story about me, and then I can apply under that rule. It's like a loophole because anybody can do a freelance article these days.
Interesting.
That's what I'm aiming for. Yeah.
Yeah. What I heard was you had to have so many blue checkmark people following you.
But well, I've got quite a few following me, so I'm certain it's not that.
Yeah, and the guy we interviewed was like, that does nothing to do with it at all.
I mean, look at the people who follow me. All right, I got Paris Hilton, John Cena, Alex Guerrero. Don't want to drag that up, but yeah, I mean, I've got a ton of blue check marks following me. So yeah, it absolutely has zero to do with that. Unfortunately, I wish that was what it was. Yeah.
Right. You got sent Elon a DM, I guess. Maybe that's how it works these days.
Man, I've been messaging him hoping, like I'm fishing for like a retweet or a like. I mean, I haven't resorted to posting Dogecoin memes yet, but I mean, that's in my list to do if I don't get it soon.
That's what it might come to, right? Dogecoin.
Hell yeah, man. I traded some of that for a while, and it was nice for a little bit. I mean, it's like all crypto. I mean, especially right now, it's crazy volatile. So. Especially Dogecoin. If he tweets, it's up 20%, or if he doesn't tweet, after a couple of weeks, people start panicking, and it's just a crazy market right now.
Did you see Elon Musk is getting sued for his entire net worth because of
Man, you can sue anyone for anything.
It's just a headline.
It's just a headline, and when I used to see people get sued or companies get sued, I used to panic. And then after they get sued, you would see all these lawyers say, "Hey, we're investigating too," and really those. They're fishing for the leads is what it is, right? And so, Heimlich and Stern will, they'll put out a press release, "Hey, we're investigating Coinbase because somebody else is investigating Coinbase because someone else is investigating Coinbase because some guy sued Coinbase for allowing Dogecoin to trade on their platform." And but the reality is you can sue anyone for anything, and probably the majority of them, get settled out of court or dismissed or whatever.
Yeah, totally. So I guess pivoting off of that Dogecoin comment. And you talked before how crypto is super volatile these days. Bitcoin, it's under 20 grand. Now I think it's back over 20.
We're just under 21 right now.
Just under 21 right now? Okay. Yep. What is your thought on the current state of crypto? And do you think it's finally dead, as you see in some of these articles?
First thing I want to say is this. I think we have to be careful when we talk about crypto to not automatically lump all of crypto in with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin can trade in a way that the rest of the cryptocurrencies cannot or might not. And I say that for a bunch of reasons. The Gary what's-his-face Gensler today said that Bitcoin is the only cryptocurrency that is a commodity. Now I actually disagree with that assessment, but the fact that that guy is saying it Bitcoin is and will be eventually, I believe, an actual cryptocurrency. It's completely decentralized. There's no CEO of Bitcoin. There's no one that can, you can sue whoever. There's no one to sue there. So, I think Bitcoin is Bitcoin and the rest is cryptocurrencies and the cryptocurrency market. Some of them probably are commodities. And I definitely think there's a large percentage that are going to be deemed securities. And when that happens, a lot of those will go away because they're they don't want to be deemed securities. But okay, so now that primer kind of out of the way, Bitcoin has pulled back. We're at 21,000. You had a dump last weekend down to like 17 and some change, and I think that's primarily caused by some firms that were over leveraged that have been liquidated, and of course the rest of the crypto market just followed it down. Here's the thing though, if you look at these firms that are getting liquidated, almost all of them are centralized. They are not decentralized firms. And I think that really strengthens the case for DeFi and strengthens the case for companies like Metavesco, shameless plug there. But the fact that the firms that are getting, kind of beat up are centralized really highlights the need for decentralized finance. If you look at that, I read an article today. It was talking about Celsius. That's basically, centralized. Duquan's whole deal, that's centralized. Theory Arrows Capital, they're centralized. The DeFi companies are holding up just fine. Aave, they're holding up. So I think that once that washes out, and there may be another one or two firms that go belly up, and I think once that's done, I think we move higher. And I think the stock market follows Bitcoin up, not the other way around. I think Bitcoin leads us out of this bear market.
Oh, that's interesting analysis.
Yeah.
One question I'd offer that is, a lot of the crypto people say that the other cryptocurrencies follow Bitcoin. You were kind of saying that Bitcoin is its own entity. What is your thought on, do you think the shit coins and Ethereum, the other ones, follow the trend of Bitcoin? Or do you think it's completely unrelated?
Well, I think they're related, but Bitcoin is related to Bitcoin. It doesn't care what the others are doing.
Right.
And you'll see times of decoupling with Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum is probably the closest to it, but I mean, even Ethereum is Ethereum. It's not Bitcoin. Right. There's not a limited supply of Ethereum. There's a limited supply of Bitcoin. And in terms of adoption, Bitcoin is leaps and bounds ahead of the rest of the cryptocurrencies that are out there. You could argue that Ethereum is a close competitor because of the utility case, but I think we're still some years away from really seeing that. So I mean, other cryptocurrencies will follow Bitcoin, and they're high beta, right? But Bitcoin doesn't follow anything. It does what it wants, and other cryptos some days will follow, some days they won't. It really, other cryptocurrencies can be, because they're less liquid and their market caps are generally much smaller, they can move around faster, and that's why they end up being high beta. ApeCoin's a great example. It's up like 10% today. Bitcoin's down 0.5% or something like that. So I mean, there's a huge difference between the two. ApeCoin market cap's like $3 billion or something. Fully diluted. So it takes less money to move those around.
Right. So you talked a little bit before how Duquan's thing that blew up, Terra Labs, that's a centralized entity.
Right.
It really blew up because of the attack on his algorithmic stablecoin, UST. I know there's a lot of people out there that are tether truthers, excuse me.
Yeah.
The Wall Street Journal just came out with an article today talking about how the hedge funds are now attacking Tether. They think that it actually doesn't have the full reserves that it's saying to back up its price. Are you concerned about Tether? And do you think if Tether were to implode, would that cause Bitcoin to plummet as well and other cryptocurrencies?
Well, if Tether imploded, that would be bad, because they hold a lot. Well, they hold a lot of treasury. Allegedly, they hold a lot of treasuries to back up their coin. There's been some speculation, and I don't think we really know yet what actually happened with Luna. I don't think we really know yet. There was initially some speculation that it was a big hedge fund that put on the short, and then they dumped and shorted Bitcoin to cause that crypto to basically Luna to unload their governance token to raise capital and unload Bitcoin to raise capital to try to defend. Something happened there. We don't know what. There's definitely was some over leverage regardless, and is an algorithmic stablecoin going to work? I mean, we don't know yet. I think it's too early to say. There was a time period where Congress or banks sued Congress because they didn't want to accept credit card or something. I forget what it was. It's something now we take for granted. At the time, it seemed reasonable. Oh yeah, you shouldn't have these electronic things. Now, I mean, it just makes sense that you would have them. So the way that we're interpreting something right now is based on the knowledge that we have and the limited history that we have. If we fast forward 20 years, we might have a completely different perception of what occurred here. So, we don't know. We'll see. I personally favor USDC. Now, if you're a DeFi guy and you don't like centralization, which I don't, you might not like USDC because it's quasi-regulated, government run, frankly. But it's safe, it's secure. And so if I have capital that I want to get out of the market, I generally put it there. And if I want to borrow, now I haven't, but if I wanted to borrow, I would borrow Tether, because if you borrow Tether and they do implode, then, well, your payback's real cheap. So there's that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the whole ethos of crypto, right, is decentralization. But to that point, I think a stable coin, I would want a level of centralization involved in that situation.
I think it matters a lot for traders because, I mean, if you want to get out of the market, you don't want to cash all your stuff out in the dollars, you know, because then you got to get it back on, you know, on ramp again.
Right.
But really, for anyone else, you know, it would come down to, I mean, if you're moving money, you would just move Bitcoin in almost all cases. If you wanted to move a large amount of capital, you'd move Bitcoin. You wouldn't move, you know, stablecoin. I just can't think of a lot of use cases where having a centralized place to park your money that's safe from fluctuations is that big of a deal. If you're worried about you know, somebody looking at what you're doing, you're going to use Bitcoin anyways, you know, which frankly, and I don't want to go down a rabbit hole because I will, but the idea that using the blockchain to hide something is kind of ridiculous because the fact that it's on the blockchain, everyone can see it. So,
Right.
you know, the government argument that, oh, well, you're hiding stuff you use. Yeah, you're not hiding anything because it's all visible. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're trying to move money without the government's, you know, hands touching it, you're going to do it with Ethereum or Bitcoin. If you want to preserve your capital in a volatile environment, you park it in USDC.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, going back to the crypto crash, it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because I mean, the economy was already kind of on a downward spiral. So then to say that the crypto market was crashed because of Luna and like UST, you know, it's kind of like, who really knows what
I
came first?
think the valuations started coming down, and I think that created a situation where you started getting margin calls. There's a lot of leverage in the system, and I don't think all of that's done yet. I do think in the next week or two, there's going to be another firm that we hear about going belly up, and we probably need to. Those firms need to go away. They're imposters, in my opinion. I mean, they're not centralized. When a centralized firm, a decentralized firm goes belly up, talk to me then. The rest of this stuff is, you know, they're pretending to be decentralized, and they probably need to go away because they're imposters, and you know, they're not something we want in that system. There's a place for centralized finance, but it's not at the heart of crypto.
Mm-hmm.
My opinion, I mean, you know, for what it's worth.
I mean, I would agree with you. And it seems like, you know, the big entities of crypto, you know, the Coinbases of the world, those big exchanges, they are hyper centralized, and they're now imposing regulations where you might as well just be using a bank. You know, who cares? Why have your money in Coinbase? Why use that exchange? It makes no sense. Use something like Uniswap or, you know, a decentralized entity.
I think they serve their purpose, and you know, I think you also have to recognize it's very early. You know, if you go back to the early .com days, like, I mean, I remember putting my credit card on a website and being scared that I was going to get scammed, you know, and even now, I mean, it's, you know, you don't even think twice about it. You know, it's like, oh, well, it's encrypted, whatever, you know, you don't even think twice about it. But there was a time where it was like, I remember having a conversation with a guy and I was telling, man, this is the future. This is the future. He said, oh man, people are not going to trust their credit card information over the internet. And I said, man, I'm telling you, they're going to. And now you don't even think, I mean, I have them saved in my Google account, you know, it's like, I don't even type it in anymore. Yeah. So where we are now, I feel like DeFi and see, I mean, there is a need for centralized finance in cryptocurrency, but it's not at the center of it. Okay. And I think that's needed to help onboard people that aren't familiar with it yet. And I think people will gradually move towards a more decentralized model as things develop. You know, it's still very wild west. You can get your money stolen, you can get hacked. You type in your your seed phrase and, you know, you have a keylogger or something, and, you know, I mean, there's 100 ways you can lose your money. And you know, in early banking days that was the case too, you know, so, you know, online banking. So I think give it some time. You know, there are a lot of really great use cases for decentralized finance, particularly in countries that have what you would call a large unbankable population. And, you know, I'm not a humanitarian, okay, don't get me wrong, I'm a capitalist, but okay,
good to hear.
Sorry.
Yeah, you can help a large percentage of the world population improve their financial situation with DeFi. And once enough people really get behind that idea, there's really just no stopping it. And I think Bitcoin will lead the forefront of that because it's, you know, it's everywhere. It's the first, it's the most secure. And you know, if you want secure money, you're going to put it in Bitcoin. I mean, it's very difficult to even conceive the idea that Bitcoin can be hacked 13 years in.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think to that point, you talk about like how DeFi and just cryptocurrencies in general really help people in the underbanked regions of the world. I think we in America can't really appreciate it because, I feel like most people in other countries, they want to have dollars.
Right.
Whereas if you live in Turkey, you don't want the Turkish lira. That shit is inflated. It's Venezuelan bolivar, whatever they use, But they don't want their currency. They'd rather have Bitcoin or an Ethereum or a Tether or something like that. So it makes a lot of sense.
You bring up a really great point, talking about the dollar. I think that, the dollar is still the world reserve currency, right? China is not happy about that. Of course, Russia is not happy about that. And that wouldn't have mattered a year ago. But right now, that kind of matters. Russia today defaulted on their debt for the first time in like 100 years or something. And as a manufactured default, they actually have the money. They just can't get it into dollars to pay the bill. And so it's a manufactured default. And that kind of sucks for them. I think about the Russian people, Vladimir Putin can go F himself, whatever. But the people, there are actual people who live there who, aren't responsible for what's occurring. Right. And, we're kind of like screwing their economy because we control the economic infrastructure of the world with the dollar being the reserve. So there are a lot of countries that don't want to see the dollar continue to be, they want an alternative at least. And there's an alternative payment system that China's trying to build. All of those reasons are reasons why crypto has use cases, because it takes all of that mess, that chaos, and it just sits it aside. Keep your centralized stuff over there. I'll keep my Bitcoin over here. You do whatever you want to do with your dollar. I'm over there and I don't care. And so that's, if the dollar suffers, Bitcoin doesn't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, kind of pivoting off this crypto, macro perspective.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of doing some research. So in June 2022, formerly, Waterside Capital Corp, you acquired or took over a shell company essentially, right?
Well, I took it over last September. We changed the name. Yeah. It was June 3rd. I changed the name this year. Yeah.
So I was talking to Jimmy. What is that process like and what does it entail? Because for the normal, investor, stock trader,
sure,
you don't always know what goes involved, like what's going on behind the scenes. Like, take us through that process and how that came to be.
Sure. Well, there's there are a couple of different ways to become public. You can go through the front door and file an S1, which is like what I did with LTNC like 12 years ago or something. I filed an S1 straight through the front door with the SEC. They review it. They send back comments, say we like this, we don't like this. What about that? You respond to it. And then after 90 days or so, they say, okay, we'll approve this. Well, then you have to go get a ticker. You get the ticker from somewhere else. So SEC says, yeah, okay, you can be a reporting company, but that doesn't make you public. FINRA gives you a ticker, and then you have to get the thing actually trades. So you need market makers to do that. And then you have to get DTC eligibility. So you need Legent Securities or someone to do that. So it's a long drawn out process. Yeah. Now it's actually cheaper to do that, to go that route, straight through the front door. Alternatively, you can buy a shell. So there's a lot of different ways you can do that. There's a company, I think it's called like Myanmar. They're like the largest shell brokerage company, I guess you call them. And they just have an inventory of shell companies that you can purchase the control block. Usually that's like preferred shares. Occasionally you'll find one where there's just a ton of the free trading stock, or a ton of the common shares. So they're not necessarily free trading. A ton of the common shares are owned by one person, and it's over 50% that's required for voting control. In the case of Waterside, I hired a broker to find me a shell. I told him, here's what I want. I want a really tight share structure. I don't want any crazy old legacy debt that's going to come out and bite me later. It needs to be super clean. Right. He found me Waterside. Okay, there was 69% of the common shares that were the control block. So that controlled the company. I bought those from the person or the company that owned those. And that's how I got control of it. So
the existing company would still own 31%.
Well, the existing shareholders
of that former company.
Right. Yeah. So they still, so a lot of people, when they buy a shell, they'll do a reverse merger and change the name, and the company coming in is a surviving entity. I didn't do this one that way. There was no reverse merger. I bought the control block of the company and I just changed the name of the company. So there was no, sanitizing of old number. That's why I wanted a super clean shell, because I just wanted to keep it nice. And look, this is a change of control, and I'm changing the direction of the company. The company's been dormant for like 3 or 4 years, whatever it was, because they used to be an SBA lender, and they went into receivership, and the company Roaring Capital bought them out of receivership from the SBA. That's how they ended up becoming a shell company. So it's been sitting there. It used to be a NASDAQ company. And so it's like, you don't, reverse mergers have their place, but I was like, the risk was, okay, you got 30% of these shareholders that, you know, they're going to get stock and they're going to do whatever with it. But you know what? Let's just build something. Let's not try to do some, you know, financial. Let's just build something. Screw financial engineering. I'll buy the control block. I'll put some capital in there. I'll raise some capital and we'll go build something. The people that own the 30%, I mean, they probably lost most of their money anyway. The stock was at like $10, you know, way back when. So, you know, maybe they'll sell, maybe they won't. You need a liquid market anyway. You need shares that will trade anyway. And if you've watched the stock, I mean, it's crazy illiquid. You know, I mean, it's like a 30-cent spread bid to ask. I mean, it's illiquid. So you need shares in the market that people can trade if you want to help the, you know, liquid stock. But it takes time to build that. You know, you have to spend some money on investor relations and awareness, and you know, that's an art and a science and a conversation for a whole other day. But you know, you have to start there somewhere. You know.
Yeah, would you say you've gained that perspective from LTNC, or is that just more of this is like, I mean, we know how important share structure is and everything for growing a company. It's better to start tight and then
when I started LTNC, we had 16 million shares outstanding. When I filed the S1 to take that company public, I owned 15 million of those shares. There was only a million shares in the float, which is a tiny amount. Okay. And that sounds good. But you run the same thing. It's very illiquid, and it was illiquid. I mean, it went from 2 cents to 80 cents. Okay, like when it first started trading. And this was way back when. A lot of people, you know, probably watch this won't remember that. But yeah, I mean, this was 80. LTNC was an 80-cent stock at one point.
What year was that?
12, 13.
Okay.
14. Yeah, I mean, it was over 20 cents for. I mean, so we IPO'd in 12, and so 12, 13, 14, probably all the way through 14, it was over like 20 cents, and it was the end of one of those years, and my memory kind of, you know, fading a little bit, but I think it was like October of 14 where things started getting crazy and it dropped under 20 cents and it really just never recovered. And that was when, you know, toxic debt just, I thought I could outrun it and I just couldn't. It caught up to me. You know, we were growing that company at some ridiculous, I mean, 120% year over year. I mean, we were crushing it, and we had a ton of debt on the books, and how we had it structured was, you know, basically you'd have like, you know, I'm just using rough numbers here, but you know, maybe $300,000 come due this month, and then 300,000 next month, and then 300,000 month after that. And we were bringing in so much revenue. I was like, man, we can outrun this because we can just take that out of our gross margins. And it worked for 3 years until we had a big client short us on payroll. And I remember making the decision to not pay off the Asher note. And I knew they were toxic as fuck. Excuse my language. But I knew they were toxic. But we only owed them like 80 grand. It's like, yeah, I mean, you know, the stock was trading $100,000 a day in volume at, you know, like 25 cents. I'm like, yeah, what's $80,000 in stock gonna do?
Yeah.
Man, with the way those things are structured, now I didn't realize it at the time. I mean, I know it now, obviously, but the way those things are structured, they sell the shares before they have the shares. They short the shares, then they can do the conversion like after the fact. And there's just nothing you do to stop it. Yeah, so it was an $80,000 note. Took the thing from 22 cents to like 00007 in like a week or two. So I mean, it was crazy. It was heartbreaking, frankly. I mean, we were, you know, I think we did 24 or 25 million in revenue that year. I mean, we were humming, dude. And the toxic debt is crushing. And so one of the things I was worried about, you know, when coming back into a buy a shell is there's always some guy out there who comes back and says, oh, well, this company owes me this company owes me that. And so when you buy a shell, you're doing just a ton of due diligence. And I actually paid, I think I probably spent like out of my pocket, like 50 grand just on due diligence, just to go back through all the old stuff. Like I hired a team to go back through all the old filings and everything, just to make sure this thing was just super, super clean. Because the last thing you want to do is start building something and have some guy come out of nowhere saying, yeah, you owe me 20 grand, and it converts it, you know, quadruple, which can happen, you know. So, yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. You know, I've seen guys, you know, go in and spend, you know, just a ton of money on a shell, and when they get in, they're like, oh, I can't do anything with this thing. So it happens. Yeah.
And that's why I guess someone like George Shark get paid the big bucks, right? That's what they say, just to make sure the shells are clean. Get a good reverse merger.
I mean, I'm not gonna comment on that.
We could pass that one over.
Yeah. I'm a nice guy. I'm just gonna, you know, let George do George.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let bygones be bygones.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's go back now to the current company.
All right.
MVCO is the ticker, Metavesco.
Yep.
What is the premise of the company, and what do you hope to build out of it?
Okay. Well, it's all crypto related in one form or another. So basically, there's 3 things we're focused on. You can lump them into 2, but I call them 3. So we got DeFi, which is for us at least is liquidity pools, and then staking. And then on the other side is NFTs and metaverse. And so I'll talk about this a little bit in the video we put out. I think it was this morning. So the liquidity pools is really where the primary revenue, like the ongoing revenue stream, comes from. So you say want to buy, let's say you wanted to buy some Chainlink today, and you had Ethereum, and you wanted to swap Chainlink for Ethereum. Well, we might have a liquidity pool running on Chainlink Ethereum, and when you swap your Ethereum for Chainlink on Uniswap, Uniswap charges a fee. Well, if we've got a pool running on Chainlink and Ethereum, we get a percentage of that trade as part of the deal for providing liquidity. And so we're market makers, just like if you're trading OTC stocks, you look on the level 2, there's, knights up there or citadels up there on the bid and the ask, man, who's making all the money? Well, the market makers are making all the money.
Right.
I mean, we're basically crypto market makers, and so pick the pairs that we want to trade. We have to be very careful about that, because you can take a portfolio loss because you're holding two pairs, two crypto as a pair for the swap. And then on the other side is the metaverse stuff, which is really, it didn't start out this way, but it has evolved into really just buying other deeds from other side, which is a Yuga Labs project. If you don't know, the Yuga Labs are the guys that created the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And so we've got, I think we're up to 7 or 8 properties now. 2 of those have codas on them. And that's more long-term, I think, in terms of like what we're looking for. There's asset appreciation. And we don't really know what that's going to look like yet, because they haven't released the game yet. There's supposed to be a test drive July 16th. And I'm very excited about it. I signed up for the demo, so hopefully we get to check that out. That'd be really cool. Maybe I'll live stream it or something. But I think there's a ton of potential there for asset appreciation, and depending on what they build and how the NFTs play into that, there may be opportunities there for royalties, licensing income. So I know there's some guys that are running. They have a company where they bought a ton of land on Sandbox, and they're licensing the land that they have out to fashion companies that are developing like in-game fashion stores, which that's probably a little outside of my wheelhouse. But if we have really good properties, we can always monetize them in some fashion that way, through a licensing. And then again, we don't really know what that's going to be. We have an idea based on what Yuga has put out, but I think it's going to end up being an MMORPG, not unlike World of Warcraft. Right. And I used to play a lot of World of Warcraft. Okay, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, the gaming industry is blowing.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It's that's a smaller port. The largest percentage of our dollars is in liquidity pools. That's where we're kind of staking our flag right there. But so I think there's other opportunities in NFTs.
Right. So basically, as a whole, you'd say it's a Web3 company that's using the Ethereum network to invest in, digital property, NFTs, and what was the other thing again? Okay,
so we've got DeFi, which you can lump staking into that really, but liquidity pools and staking. So liquidity pools is you're providing liquidity to the market. Staking is interesting, and I tell you, there were a lot of other projects we wanted to get involved with, but the market just kind of dumped, and I was like, well, we need to not do this right now. But we do have some staking going on. I don't want to say which ones because I don't think I've released that information to the public, so I won't say. But so staking basically is like being a Bitcoin miner, but without the equipment. Okay, so Bitcoin is proof of work. There's a machine connected to the network providing hash rate, hash power, computing power to the network, to the Bitcoin network, and that keeps it secured, keeps it functioning. And you'll see when Bitcoin goes down, a lot of times the hash rate goes down because people aren't running their machines because they're not making enough in Bitcoin to cover their expenses. With proof of stake, you have validators instead of a whole bunch of miners. You have less people running equipment, and they're validators. And so you might say, hey, I like Ethereum. And so at some point or another, Ethereum will go to proof of stake. You buy a bunch of Ethereum, you delegate it to a validator. The validator runs the equipment that's required to keep the network running, and you get rewarded for putting up the Ethereum. So that's staking. So it's almost like being a miner with software instead of the hardware, like with Bitcoin.
Got it.
Yeah. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities there, like PancakeSwap is one where they've got a nice staking protocol set up where you can get 98%, APY. That's pretty good. You're subject to the same volatility as the rest of the market, but you're getting additional coins in PancakeSwap for putting up your PancakeSwap for locking it up for a year.
So would you say it's almost advantage to be to be kind of creating this company at this time at kind of a low? Or would you say that it would be better for it to be kind of on the rise?
I wish I'd have started 30 days late. Okay. I mean, we could have bought this dip like crazy, but we were already in pretty deep.
Okay. I wasn't sure when you exactly got in. So
yeah. Well, I mean, so I raised a bunch of money at the end of March, and then we immediately started putting it to work. And you look at our financials, you can see we had, I think 400,000 of it was already working at the end of March, something like that. So, we were already in pretty good when all this started happening.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, in an ideal world, we would have started 30 days late. I say that, but then again, there's been so many lessons that have been learned in that short period of time, and opportunities I think that were stumbled upon because of that big drop. So if I had waited, I would have missed out on probably what I feel is the biggest opportunity there, and that is with ApeCoin and with other side, because that all transpired, in March with the ApeCoin drop, and then April 30th was the other side launch. So if I had waited, I would have missed out on all that, and I would have been, probably late to that party. So, we'll see.
Can you speak about your investment in ApeCoin a little bit, or I
can't give specifics, but we've got a pretty good amount of it, and it's the majority of it's in liquidity pool with Ethereum. So we'll look at Uniswap pretty much. I look at Uniswap pretty much every day, and I look at the analytics, and I see what coins are in the top 5 pairs, and ApeCoin and Chainlink are in the top 10 almost pretty much every day in volume. So the downside for us, if the pairs that we're putting up liquidities for, liquidity pools for, if the volume dries up, then we're just holding 2 cryptocurrencies and we're not earning fees. And you might want to weather that for a few days, but if you have an extended period of time where the volume dries up, you're just you got to move that money into a different pair, or at least make some adjustments. So I monitor that every day to see kind of where we're at with volume. And thus far, ApeCoin has remained in the top 5 on Uniswap pretty much every day. If you exclude stablecoins, it's in the top 5, which is in this market, that's impressive because it's an altcoin. I mean, a lot of people don't even know what ApeCoin is yet. And I do track the number of wallets. I mean, there's over 77,000 wallets that have ApeCoin in their wallets. So, if you think that Yuga Labs has a clue and they know what they're doing and they're going to build something amazing with the IP that they have, I mean, you have to own ApeCoin because everything that they do run on ApeCoin. Like you wanted to go to ApeFest, you needed, to have an ape to get in there. You wanted to buy anything at ApeFest, any of the merch, you had to have ApeCoin to buy it. There was a huge drop a couple of days ago of merch with Snoop Dogg and Eminem. You had to have ApeCoin to buy that. So I think that Yuga will eventually be the Disney of the metaverse. And if you don't own ApeCoin, you cannot participate. So that's why I look at ApeCoin as a must-own token for the future. If you think that Yuga is going to be the Disney of the metaverse, if you don't, then it's some other coin that's not invented yet.
So would you equate ApeCoin then almost to like BNB, like the Binance coin, as in to participate in this ecosystem, ApeCoin is necessary, and through that ecosystem growth, you'll have appreciation in the coin's price?
Yes and no. Okay. I say no because the thing about the anything on the Binance Smart Chain, I mean, there's a ton of really awesome projects on that. Okay. But it's got a different, ApeCoin has a different type of utility, and it's a okay, here's the perfect. Have you seen Ready Player One?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, great. In Ready Player One, dude is like, he's like, yeah, I'm gonna have to move to the back of the line because I'm broke. And so he's riding along and he's waiting for these other cars to crash, and then coins pop out of them and he collects those. And it's Oasis coin, right? That's what they are. To me, that's what ApeCoin will be, because instead of going to the Oasis, I'm going to go into other side, and I'm going to need ApeCoin to transact, just like you would need Oasis coin to transact in the Oasis if that were a real thing. And I believe that Yuga will create the closest thing to that. In one shape, form, or fashion, I believe that. They may get bought by, meta platforms or something. I don't know. But I feel like they have the best shot at actually building that and the financial ecosystem that goes with it. And so that's kind of my investment thesis on ApeCoin, is that it will be the currency of the metaverse. We'll see.
Yeah. One question that just popped into my mind. Have you seen people are now buying real property? They're leveraging their NFTs and then getting a loan out for those properties to buy real estate. Have you thought about getting into that business? I know your company's listed under financials. So is that something that you're allowed to do, or?
You can borrow against your NFTs, and buy, more NFTs or crypto. You can borrow against your crypto. That's the cool thing about DeFi is, I can deposit Ethereum right now into Aave and borrow against it and keep my Ethereum while I borrowed more Ethereum or whatever. I could borrow Tether, and I could take that Tether and buy more Ethereum. But I get to keep my Ethereum as long as I don't get over leveraged. Just like
the house.
Just like, well, a house, you don't really get over leveraged on a house because there's no margin call. but if you buy a bunch of stock in something and it goes down, you get a margin call. Yeah. But there's hey, eventually you'll be able to buy a house with an NFT. It's houses are going to become NFTs. It might take 10 years. I don't think it'll be that long.
Yeah.
But eventually anything of major value will become or can become, not only will, but can become an NFT. And I think housing makes the most sense because if you bought a house, it's like you're spending so much time just waiting for people to order paper. This is an archaic system in this day and time. Eventually, all that will move to the blockchain. And there's so many use cases for the blockchain. And I almost feel like an idiot for not getting into this 7 years ago. My kid told me to buy a Bitcoin like 8 years ago, and I laughed at him. He was like $10 or something, and I laughed at him because, this is a scam. I'm not buying that.
Yeah.
And now I'm like over here, geeking out over the blockchain and what you can do with it. And it really is an amazing tech. Forget about the apes and the monkeys and all that. The technology is for real. How it ends up, we don't know yet. I think it's going to be Bitcoin as the currency, Ethereum as the infrastructure. And so, I am investing accordingly, and Metavesco is investing accordingly.
I would say, do you then, if you think Ethereum's infrastructure, do you think potentially Ethereum could be just actually AOL, and that the gas fees will eventually force everyone off to a new infrastructure?
The gas fees are high because everyone uses Ethereum. there's an interesting argument about it. The reason these other ones are so fast and so cheap is because their volumes are just, it's not even close,
Right.
So let Solana, let's see what the gas looks like if they pick up the same kind of volume that Ethereum has, which they won't. It's unlikely. And Ethereum maxi, so take that with a grain of salt. But if ETH 2.0 becomes a thing, as it should, that will pave the way for scalability and lower gas fees. And there's a lot of commentary about this that ETH 2.0 will not lower gas fees, and it may not initially, but it will provide the infrastructure and the capability to begin working on that as a solution. So Ethereum, the reason it's secure, it's stable. Solana resets like every 2 weeks. They have to shut down the network and start over. It's ridiculous. You can't run the world on a network that can be shut down every 2 weeks. It shouldn't even. It should be so decentralized that it's not even a capability. Ethereum is that, and so until someone else can replicate that, I don't see Ethereum getting taken over. With the caveat that they could screw the pooch with Ethereum 2.0, and if you could just be a worthless chain. I think that's unlikely.
Yeah, so by that logic, this is kind of like a two-part question, but one, I just saw Goldman today said that proof of stake for Ethereum won't really help with the gas fees.
Yeah.
Another thing, SEC, do you think Ethereum token should be considered a commodity then? Or how would you describe it?
I think Ethereum is probably a commodity. I definitely don't think it's a security. That and there's going to be so many arguments about this, but I think one of the major premises of the Howell test and calling it a security is there has to be some expectation of a return. Well, there's definitely not that with Ethereum. Okay. In fact, if you bought Ethereum anytime the last 12 months, you're underwater. So I would like to know where my return is. All right. So there's certainly no promise of a return. When I buy that token, literally, I'm buying it for the utility. Some people buy it because they're trading it, but the use case is you're buying it for the utility, and I think that makes it a commodity. Okay, the same way that you might buy silver, you're buying it for what you can do with it, unless you're trading it for inflation hedge. But it has value. Iron ore has value because of what you can do with it, and I look at it Ethereum the same way. It has value because of what you can do with it, not because of some expected return. Now there are a ton of cryptocurrencies that have rewards that are basically, you might as well call them dividends because that's what they are. Those are absolutely securities. They're going to get slammed, and most of those are going to go away because no one wants to deal with the SEC on that. The whole reason you want a cryptocurrency is so you don't have to deal with the feds. Most of those are going to go away. Okay, so and I have a few of them myself, personally. I mean I'm well aware that I'm going to get rid of those if that comes to pass, and it will. I mean, it's going to.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's funny that like Congress somehow thinks that Bitcoin and Ethereum are a commodity, but they think everything else is security. Like,
well,
I just find it hard rationalizing that because technically it's very similar, if not the same thing.
Yeah.
But yet somehow the government wants to, I guess regulate them because those are the two biggest ones. I don't know. I mean, I don't understand the motivation, or maybe they just don't understand it. I don't know.
I think the motivation, the government doesn't like decentralization. All right.
Right.
Kind of counteracts what they do. Right. I mean, you're born in the United States, if you're born here, it's almost impossible to get out unless you're very rich. Okay.
Right.
You can't take your money with you. To leave, you need a ton of money to go somewhere else. And then you have to convert that money into whatever the place is you're going, which is insanely hard also.
And then lose money.
I mean, all governments around the world, they all talk about freedoms and all this. And hey, United States is the freest country in the world. I'm a huge patriot, but I'm not disillusioned with the idea that governments are there to control people to some degree. Doesn't mean they're there to control you, make you slaves, but they control you to some degree. I believe both parties are equally guilty, and I mean, you see these guys, they go on TV and they're arguing with each other, and you have these debates and they're just outright mean to each other. Afterwards, they're out playing golf together. It's complete bullshit. All right. It's a farce. And I did not used to believe this. Okay. But the whole thing's a farce. And I don't believe any of this stuff, whether it's Fox News or CNN. I just don't believe any of them anymore. They're all full of shit. And bottom line is, we're going to control you. We didn't used to have to. It was the great experiment until the tax was introduced. Once income tax was introduced, it was no longer the country that it was founded. It changed because then the people running the government had incentive to run the government. Prior to that, there was no incentive to run the government other than your pride of country. The minute you introduced money, and it's like, man, we're going to take basically from everyone who lives here, we're going to take a little bit, how we want that.
So yeah, it's just another way to maintain control, basically.
I believe so. And so, the government doesn't like crypto at all. Bitcoin is too far gone. There's no way they can undo that. They can try to regulate it, and I think they will regulate it to some degree. And I think regulation probably validates it and makes it more legitimate than otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that it's been adopted to the level where if they try to just ban the United States government, at least, if the United States government trying to ban Bitcoin, I think that
catastrophic.
I don't want to say impossible, but I think almost impossible. It's just the adoption has just accelerated too far beyond. It's got critical mass, right? And I think they will go after these others. And I mean, they're going to trim it down, man. There's not going to be 19,750 cryptocurrencies 5 years from now. There just won't be. They're going to squeeze them out through regulation. And I think that for the best cryptocurrencies, that's actually good because money will flow there, just like money flows to blue chips in bear markets. When all of these, these meme coins are just gone, money will flow to the coins that have actual utility, like Ethereum, where you can build applications that are going to change the world, like Bitcoin, where I can store my money there and not go buy gold because I can't spend gold. Right? I can spend Bitcoin. I can spend it online as easy as I want. If I could buy digital gold, I mean, I can't do anything with it. I have to sell it to a broker, pay them 3%, and then transfer it, pay the bank. It's a joke. Mm-hmm. With decentralized finance, you skip all that.
So Ron, then back to government getting involved with crypto. Do you think there will be a Fed dollar CBDC released by the central banks in the coming years?
I probably think so, and I'm actually for that. I mean, as much as I don't like centralization, because I don't, but if we're talking about a stable coin, I think you need centralization because there needs to be backed by something that is verifiable, definitive, to infinity, and only a central bank can do that because they can print money out of thin air. So now, will I keep my money there? No. But if I'm trying to get out of the market, yeah, I ain't moving mine. If I'm trying to get out of the market for a short period of time, I might move it there. I mean, I do that now. I put it in USDC, which again, I mean, that's quasi a central bank crypto now. Honestly, I mean, it's almost there. I mean, there's like a few degrees of separation there. Okay. But yeah, I mean, if there's a central backed crypto, I think that's good. I think it's great for people that are scared of decentralization. They're scared of what can happen to their capital if they put it into cryptocurrency. And I mean, I'm all for that. I think it's good for the ecosystem as a whole to move people off of paper dollars. It doesn't accomplish the same thing as getting people off of fiat, because it's still going to be fiat, right? Which means it can print forever,
Yeah,
to infinity. But if you're in a stable coin, it's pegged to the dollar. So $1 is $1. What do you care? So yeah, I think there will be one, and I think it's fine. I think we need it. I think it's good. I think it'll be good for Joe down the street who just wants to have his bills paid in online in cryptocurrency, and it's quick and it's trackable and secure and cheaper than going to the bank. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, right now DeFi in your company MVCO, a lot of it is just providing liquidity to these pools.
Right.
Where do you see your company's involvement in DeFi going, say, like the next 2 or 3 years? Do you see expanding beyond providing liquidity, or there are other applications you see?
I got to ask that question today, and I tell you, it's such an early. I mean, DeFi wasn't even a term 2 years ago. I mean, you got to think about this for a moment. 2 years ago, half the stuff that we're doing just wasn't even. I mean, the only NFT that was worth more than a few $100 were punks. Okay, I mean that was it. I mean, the whole ecosystem has blown up, which I mean it's contracting now. But I feel this is like that .com moment back in like early 2000. And I think once you're on the other side of it, you're like, wow, look at what we can do with this great technology. So what does the next 2-3 years look like? I don't really know. I know what I want to see us as a major player in, for lack of a better phrase, capital markets for decentralized finance. I want us to be a huge market maker. Okay. Yeah. I do know that we are, at least for the moment, until FTX takes everything over. For the moment, we are the only US-based publicly traded liquidity provider that is SEC reporting. Okay, so I know we're early to that, and I don't know that that's going to get us any feathers in our hat. I don't know.
Start marketing that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's
in the ropes.
Yeah, it's not the idea that you're going to audit all of your crypto transactions is a daunting idea, because like your PCAOB auditor is not familiar with most of this stuff. There are a handful of auditors that deal with crypto. Okay. And there's like 4, and I've talked to all 4 of them. All right. And the idea that, yeah, I mean, we're going to have probably a couple $1 million in transactions a quarter. And, yeah, where's your bank statement? There's no bank statement. I can send you Ethereum, etherscan.io. You can go look at it there on the blockchain.
Could be a good thing or a bad thing, right?
Well, I mean, so my argument is that it's a good thing because it's on the blockchain. You can't hide anything. It's trackable. It's traceable. It really should make audits easier and cheaper. Now, anybody who's auditing crypto right now won't tell you that, because, where's your crypto? Oh, well, it's 3 times as much. In fact, I think we got quoted. One guy was like, yeah, it's going to be like $50,000 a quarter. And I'm like, man, yeah, go F yourself for $50,000 a quarter. We just started the company. Holy cow. Yeah, and I'm not joking. I mean,
I believe it.
I didn't even respond to email. So
yeah,
really block.
Yeah, block that guy. Jesus. Yeah, and then it was like $98,000 for the annual audit. I mean, come on. I mean, I just started the company. Yeah, I mean, we're gonna need people to trade the hell out of some crypto just to make the fees to pay for that. So yeah, I mean, it is. We're very early, and there's a saying that pioneers get arrows in their backs. So I'm well aware that it's a risky place that we are because of that. The fact that we got our last quarter done and we were able to get through that review. I mean that for me personally, that was like a huge moment, getting that review done with the amount of cryptocurrency transactions that we had. and getting it done. I mean, and we made it on time. We didn't need to file an extension. I was fully prepared to file an extension because, like, yeah, there's no way this guy's gonna get all this done. I mean, we only had like 4 weeks, from the time we got the guy to the time to the deadline. There's just no way, this is gonna get done. But man, I mean, I don't. There's no other staff here. It's still just me. Okay, so when I say me or we and us and all that, it's out of habit for over the years being in leadership roles. You never say I, right? But we hired a really kick-ass team to do the accounting. It's Profit Link, and I hope they don't mind me plugging them. But man, the ladies over there are just amazing. They hooked us up with I think it's called Bitwave or something like that. I don't know. There was some software that extracts everything off the blockchain, and it just bam, 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 bam. And man, I mean, they're expensive, okay, but the work they do is just amazing. And we were able to take that and just export it, send it off to our CPA, and he had some questions, and it was packaged up within like a day, and then sent to the auditor. Right. Man, I mean, the hard work was really done in like, I don't know, 12 days or something, which is insane. I expected us to have to file an extension, and yeah, I mean, it's so when the next guy comes along,
delay maybe.
Well, I thought, yeah, well, that would have been good, yeah. But I mean, I think that you're gonna see. We're not gonna be the last one. We're the first one, but I mean, FTX. I mean, they're talking about doing some wild stuff.
Might buy Robinhood, allegedly.
Yeah. I bought some of that today. Once I saw that headline. Binance. They're trying to float a listing, and they okay. So there's two companies. There's Binance US, and then there's Binance.
Right.
Binance US does not mess around with liquidity pools. Binance does. And they do a ton of staking. I think once they can get comfortable with the accounting and the auditing on that, that's going to come in. Because I mean, I'll just give you an idea of the potential. Okay. When ApeCoin first launched, the thing was trading like $30-40 million a day on Uniswap, and that's a lot of volume for any token on Uniswap. Okay. And probably on average, we were getting almost 1% a day on the liquidity that we had in the pool. Okay. And I don't remember exactly how much it was, but just the idea that let's just call it 0.5%. I mean, it was more than 0.5%. Let's just say it's 0.5%. You get 0.5% a day on your money, and that's before you compound it. Right. That's insane, man. That's insane. Now, the thing is, those type of situations don't occur that often where you've got that kind of volume going. Okay, so like on average, ApeCoin is like 7 million a day, something like that. And so that's substantially less. So you're not getting 0.5%. But before you even talk about compounding, you're getting those types of returns. Once you start compounding, I mean, you can get to a 70 to 100% return fairly easy in terms of the fees that you're going to get. Now, that doesn't mean that the value of the liquidity pool doesn't drop, because if ETH and Ape both drop, then your liquidity pool value is going to drop as well. But you're still earning whatever that percentage is as long as the volume is there. I mean, that's huge, man. And I get it now why you want to be a market maker on the stock market, because man, you're just getting paid while other people are just trading this stuff.
Right.
Well, here you're talking about almost being like the central bank, or being a bank where they're making fees off of you moving your money around. Well, that's what we're doing. We're making fees off of people moving their crypto around. It's brilliant. I love it.
It's basically like, I mean, I feel like it's hard to lose almost, right?
Well,
if people are still trading in the market and they're trading crypto, essentially on paper, you will make money, right?
You will make a revenue from your fees. That doesn't mean your net will end up being a profit, because I mean, look at what's happened to Ethereum and ApeCoin in the last 30 days. I mean, it's down a bunch.
Well, yeah, I guess the market volatility.
Yeah. So now on the other side of that, you're taking a hit on your pool values, but the volatility usually increases volumes because there are traders coming in like, oh, look at this volatility.
So it kind of counters it.
So you start making more fees. But yeah, I mean, without question, if crypto takes a 50% haircut, you're not going to make back in fees in a month,
Right.
But over the course of a year, you will. I mean, as long as the volume's there, anyway.
I mean, I feel like crypto is kind of becoming like stocks, right? It's like over time, crypto has continually went up over the last 6 years at least.
Well, and I think some of them, not all of them.
Well, what you were saying, the majority of your investments at MVCO are in Ethereum, Bitcoin.
Well, yeah. So if you just put your money in Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last 5 years, you pretty much outperformed every altcoin that's been created. There might be one or two. Okay. What I do all day, it's 90% consuming information. Okay. I mean, because we're not building anything, there's no customers. Like it's literally just consuming just a ridiculous amount of financial information and reading about protocols and stuff that, a year ago I had no idea what these things were. Right. But so I'm consuming a lot of information. So I constantly reference reports. Yeah, I read this report. I went in. I read all reports all the damn time. So I did read this report. It was talking about, and I think it was 7 years back. If you'd have just put your money in Bitcoin and Ethereum, you basically would outperform all meme coins combined.
Wow.
Like it was crazy. And then you think about it, it makes sense. I mean, Bitcoin's up like 20,000, and that's as of now. That doesn't even count if you got out at 69,000.
Yeah. Well,
so,
it's funny.
Yeah, long term. I mean, you stick to the blue chips.
Yeah, and it's funny that you talk about that. Like, I remember my first crypto bubble was probably around 2017.
Yeah.
I got into Bitcoin in 2013 just because me and my friends in high school, we wanted to buy fake IDs so we could buy booze. So we bought it in Bitcoin. But 2017, that's when I started like trading it a little bit more. And I remember Litecoin was like the big one. People loved Litecoin.
Yeah.
And this time around, everyone hates Litecoin. No one wants to touch Litecoin.
That's true.
Well, there's been a lot of forks and spinoffs. Well, in crypto they're called forks more than spinoffs. There's been a lot of forks, and I think that each of them have their time, right? And Dogecoin last year was huge, man. I mean, if you got in early enough, 2 years ago you could have got in for less than a penny. I mean, even now you're like what, a nickel, 6 cents. I mean, you're up huge. But those things that have stay power, they have to develop some sort of utility, and not a lot of them are able to do that. Right. And so that's where the meme coin thing is like, oh well, there's no real utility, you're just trading it until somebody, hey, props to Elon for trying to give some utility to Dogecoin and let you buy a Tesla with it, right? I mean, if 50% of the world said, you know what, we're going to take Dogecoin. I mean, Dogecoin's going to go up, and it would stabilize, which is what's going to happen with Bitcoin. Eventually, we're going to reach this mass adoption, point where it's stable because so many people own it. See, it's volatile right now because it's still a small percentage of the world that own Bitcoin. Once the population that owns Bitcoin, you get to some, and I don't know what the percentage. There's probably some math guy that can tell you what that percentage is. Some guy at Goldman Sachs knows. But once we get to that point, it's still going to trade, but it will, so does the U.S. dollar. I mean, U.S. dollar trades, 6 days a week, 24 hours a day. It will be more stable though, and that's the promise, anyways. And it's just limited supply of it. So if you think that the United States is going to print dollars to infinity, and it will, because it has to. I mean, they've even stated our goal is 2% inflation a year. Okay, well, shit. After 7 years, that's a lot of inflation. I mean, you're basically like 30% of what you thought you had is gone, after compounding. So, yeah, I'll take a 30% return on my Bitcoin every 5 years, once it's stable. Sure, that'd be great. Because you're inherently just making 30%.
Yeah, and like kind of what we talked about earlier with like the unbanked and these developing nations really utilizing crypto. Like, I don't think people realize, like, when El Salvador really took an adoption of Bitcoin for that country, people like, they like to shit on the president there because, I don't know, it may be a little crazy, but who knows? But the currency they were using was the US dollar beforehand. So like that country didn't really even have a currency they controlled. They basically were just using dollars because, it's El Salvador. Like, what the fuck is gonna, there's no faith in that institution, in that like country. So Bitcoin for them makes a lot of sense, and a lot of these countries in Africa are starting to accept it now.
Well, you bring up a good point. I mean, there are how many countries in 200 and something countries? I don't know exactly. I'm not a geography major, but I think it's like 242 countries in the world, sovereign countries, something like that. I mean, if everyone's, this is why Europe came up with the euro, because it was just impossible to exchange money across borders and do business. I mean, okay, so you want a global currency? That's never going to happen because central banks have their own agendas. Okay, so Europe has its own agenda, and they're actually encountering this right now, where parts of Europe are doing great, and then Italy's like sucking. And so, like, well, how do we help Italy if we've got all these other countries that are part of the Euro bloc? I mean, it's actually a conundrum for them now. Like, they're trying to figure out how to handle that particular region, which is very difficult to do. So, to have a global currency is just not going to happen. But you can have a global medium or exchange medium, and that's going to be Bitcoin. Okay, I mean, there's not going to be something else. It's going to be Bitcoin. I think other things we'll try and have tried. the U.S. United States may come out with this digital dollar and they try to get everybody to, but you're still going to be subject to inflation. And so if you're a country that has an unstable government, an unstable economy, I mean, Bitcoin is just like an awesome refresher because people, I mean, you think about Russia. I mean, you don't think of Russia as being unstable. Well, about 90 days or so ago, if you had rubles, you're like pissed. Now you're actually doing okay now. Rubles are actually up against the dollar relative to when the war started. But for a period of time there, you saw your entire savings go to zero.
Right.
Okay. Unless you had it in Bitcoin and you don't care. And so that's, for these countries that don't have developed economies, I feel like Bitcoin really is the way for them and for their people. And so if you can get past this idea of, self-sovereignty where you're the king and, whatever, if you can get past that idea and just look at, hey, I'm doing this for the people that are in this country, it's almost a disservice not to put your country on some sort of Bitcoin program because it literally takes you out of this crazy game that the central banks play with each other and with our money and with our wealth and our, assets. I mean, and they all do it. And, you born here, you have no say so on the matter, really. I mean, you can vote, but, the Federal Reserve is not elected, so they don't care. Right. So, Bitcoin, I think El Salvador, I think it was a bold move. It's not a country that's really known for stability, but I thought it was a pretty bold move. And that guy's gotten, he take a lot of crap for it. But I think history will show that was a pretty brilliant move. And I think other countries, other smaller third world countries will do the same type moves. Ones that can get beyond corruption, at least, because, if you're into corruption, the last thing you want is some uncorruptible, currency. Right. So
good point.
Point. Yeah.
I think El Salvador is one of the highest crime rates in the world. So
yeah, it's not a model.
Corruption's definitely an issue, right?
Yeah. But
great surfing here.
If you think the guy is like really trying to help his people and improve, right? Yeah. I mean, I feel like he's made a pretty good start. And if they actually build that Bitcoin city that they've talked about, where they're going to use like the heat from the volcano to mine Bitcoin, I mean, that's fucking brilliant. I mean, that's brilliant. And you got a volcano right there. I mean, you're literally turning energy into money, and we do that here in Texas all the time, so why not? I mean,
oh yeah, totally.
Pretty brilliant. Yeah. So I mean, at a minimum, you got to give him an A for creativity.
That's true.
You got nothing to lose. You might as well go balls to the wall. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
Might as well.
I mean, he's underwater on his investment right now. So.
That's true. He's lost actually about half his money, but that's beside the point.
Yeah. Well, haven't we all? So
that's true.
Yeah. Markets are down right now.
That's right.
Yeah. All right, Ryan. So I think we talked a lot about crypto. I just kind of want to steer it back. We first heard about you back in like February or January 2021.
Okay.
It was a crazy time on Twitter. It was so much fun.
Was it?
Dude, I remember. Jimmy, tell the story about how we invested in LTNC.
Yeah, so it's funny. I remember
you guys were in LTNC? Okay, this will be fun.
Of course.
We actually made money, though. I mean, I don't know. Who cares at this point, right?
Well, most people should have made money. If
that's what Jimmy and I said.
Really is on them.
We've always preached to our viewers, like, if your stock runs hundreds of %, if you don't make money, it's your fault.
That's
you know what I mean?
Me, man.
You can't blame Ryan Schadel for your losses.
Yeah, so my last day as the CEO was February 27th. The stock was at 3.5 cents.
Right.
So if you owned it prior to that moment, you were way up. Yeah. If you owned it in December of 2020, you were up like 35,000%. That's not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, Ryan, I think you had over $200 million or something at one point.
On paper, it was. I think I got to 110. So yeah, for a brief moment, I was in the top 25,000 richest people in the world.
How did that feel?
That's pretty cool.
Well, I mean, I was kind of pissed off because I knew I'd never get that money. So, I mean,
is there any way that I can sell all this right now?
Yeah, believe me, if there was, I would have. Okay, hands down. If I legally could have just sold, I totally. I mean, that kind of money. Come on, you get out.
I mean, you'd buy it. You said you wouldn't, right?
Yeah. I totally would, 100%. If legally I would have been allowed to, or if I even could have figured out how to do it illegally and not get caught, I would have done it, 100%. Yeah, I actually called my lawyer and said, "Hey, is there any way I can sell this?" Nope, can't do it. So, it's what it is. Yeah, but, not kidding. I mean, I totally would have. All right.
I mean, I would have.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
So the thing went to like 8 cents at one point. I think that was in like May or something like that. So I mean, even after February 27th, after I resigned, you still got a double. In the time period. So I mean, if you didn't take profits on that, that's not on me. I mean, I did what I felt was the right move for the shareholders, and I still think it was. Now, things have not played out how I anticipated, and it certainly hasn't helped me any financially, how things have kind of played out in the last few months. But, at the time, I did the right deal for the shareholders, and as the CEO, I mean, I feel pretty good that people made money on it. So,
Yeah, I mean, your interviews with Stan the Trading Man, I remember I was just like crazy. I remember seeing you on Twitter with Stan. I just texted Luke. I remember it was like the parking lot of a Home Depot for my job. I was like, Luke, we got to buy LTNC. The CEO's the man. Because that was like my premise. Like the CEO's talking, that's the stock I'm buying. And
I
ended up making a shitload
Well,
of money.
one of our theories
awesome.
that the CEO has a large stake in the company. It's always usually a good company to invest in because they're, involved in the company. Kind of like Elon Musk and Tesla, right? Like he has a lot of shares. You're going to invest in the company.
Just the pivot from like labor to hydrogen water, that's still like legendary in my eyes. Like that pivot. Like who does that?
I mean, have you tried the product?
No, I haven't tried it yet.
Tried the product? Oh my God. Okay.
I know. I gotta order a case. Look,
you gotta try the product. Okay. Try the product, bro. I was so skeptical. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Whatever. Hydrogen water. Dude, it's legit. Okay. It's so legit. I mean, it's good stuff. And the gamer shots are amazing also. Okay. Stock aside, the product kicks ass. The marketing on it kicks ass. The packaging, not so much. I mean, then it can't. I still don't know why they can't fix that problem. But I mean, this product is amazing. Okay. I believed in the product. I didn't at first. I was very skeptical. Okay. But once I started looking into it, and then when they actually had something like it, I was like, okay, I mean, this is good stuff. This is legitimate. And I genuinely felt like this product could be revolutionary. They're going to have to do a few things. They're going to have to really do a few things that are going to educate the market because it's very different. And the idea, it's hydrogen water. Well, water's got hydrogen in it. Yeah, but it's not quite the same thing once you mix it with an oxygen molecule. But your average Joe doesn't know that. There's water and hydrogen. I mean, so I had this idea of kind of what I felt they would need to do, and they didn't really listen to me about any of that. I mean, there were some things that they did, once that whole thing ends up, however it ends up, there's probably an inside scoop there. I could share some stuff that I'm really proud of, things that I contributed to that. And until that time comes, they keep the glory, and I'm okay with that. But the product is amazing, and I believed in the product. I still do believe in the product, and for me, I mean, it was really the idea of it and the people that I thought were going to be involved in it. Okay, at the time when I made that decision, it was just a no-brainer. Whether I was in the labor business or not if I'm thinking about the shareholders, it was a no-brainer. If I'm thinking about myself, I really didn't want to get. I just wanted to. I mean, you gotta understand. I spent about 50% of my professional career building that company, building the labor business, and at one point we had 33 offices across the country. We did 25 million in revenue. I took the thing from startup to 25 million in revenue in 36 months. Man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And
it's quick.
I just wanted to fix it. I paid off all the debt. Like there was, at one point, like $5 million worth. I mean, we paid off all the debt. We bought back billions of shares. I just wanted to fix it and clean it up because you got to understand, I despised, and probably to some degree still do, despised OTC companies. I despised the OTC. I felt like most companies that were there were just complete scams. I'd invested in some and lost a ton of money investing in stocks that were on the OTC where I thought they had a legitimate business. I saw these press releases. There was one of them was a staffing company up in like Virginia or something, Passel Corp. I invested a bunch of money in that company, and they like, man, how can this thing have billions of shares traded when they only got 100 million outstanding? Well, it's because they're not updating their share structure. They're not filing 8Ks saying we issued a bunch of shares, which you're supposed to do if you issue more than 5% within a 3-day period. And I just couldn't believe what was happening, and I'm just losing money. And so I despised the OTC, just kind of at least the makeup of not OTCmarkets.com, but the OTC participants. Mm-hmm. And even the traders are. I mean, I looked at how people trade, and it's like, man, all these people they're just pumping, and they're on iHub, and they're just talking about and they're just selling the whole time. They're talking about buying, they're just selling. So I didn't really have a big opinion of it, and so the idea for me was like, okay, I'm gonna start this thing. It was a startup. I'm gonna file with the SEC. I'm gonna take it through the front door. We're going to build this thing to $100 million. We're going to uplist to the NASDAQ, and we're just going to crush it. And man, we were on pace to do that. I had a whiteboard in my office where I had the 7 requirements to uplist to the NASDAQ. I'm like, man, we can meet these. And we had like 4 of them checked off after 36 months. I mean, It was my baby. It was my dream. It was what I wanted to do. And we were this close. And, we had a big client just slow roll us on the payments. And that's what caused the thing to collapse. And then once it collapsed, I didn't have the ability to raise money to keep growing it. And then I had a heart attack, and it's like, yeah, well, just fuck me,
Oh,
so yeah.
Wow.
So
that'll derail you for sure.
Yeah. And so, it's like, okay, different ball game. We got to sell everything that's losing money. So we did. I mean, we closed a bunch of branches. We sold a bunch of branches. We used that money to pay off debt. We used some to buy back shares. I mean, it was a whole ordeal, and I committed a lot of time and energy to it. So if put yourself in my shoes, it's like November, December 2020. We came this close to having to close up because of COVID. I mean, we were reeling. And I remember when COVID hit, we were running about 130, 140,000 a week in revenue. And then COVID happened, and we dropped down to 30 grand a week in revenue. And I'm like, oh my God, what are we going to do? In fact, I remember telling my wife, babe, this might be it right here. I mean, we survived a lot, but this might do us in. Man, I was scared. Okay. And man, we pulled through that. So I went through all of that. The last thing I wanted to do was just give away my company. Right. You got to understand. I mean, because when 21 rolled around, I mean, we were starting to come back. We got the Super Bowl, well, we didn't have the Super Bowl. We had the Kansas City Chiefs, but they weren't in Kansas City. So we didn't have the Super Bowl, but we did have the Chiefs. We were servicing them. And, I was like, man, we're going to come back from this. Right. And so I remember tweeting about, and that's what started it. Talking about Stan, that's what started. I tweeted, we were working with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what started the whole thing. And Stan's like, what's going on over here? And then I had a whole bunch of people reach. The thing is, like, if you look back through my Twitter, I posted like every 2 weeks about what we were doing with the company. So it wasn't like it was an out of the blue thing. I mean, I was very vocal, and I always have been very vocal about what we were doing since like 2014. So but that's what started. It was the tweet about the Kansas City Chiefs. And my tweet was, I don't care who wins this, because I love Tom Brady and I love the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are our clients. Either way, we win. That was the tweet. And that's kind of what set everything in motion, where people are like, wait, what's happening over here? And like I said, I've been tweeting, every couple of weeks for years, and just nobody really paid attention to it. I remember tweeting, I just retired 200 million shares, and like no one saw it, but I did. I retired 200 million shares. No one cared. I'm like, whatever. I'm putting the information out there. I'm reading, regulation FD, at least in my head, that's what I was doing, just providing information. We weren't legally required to. But, shareholders, hey, what are you doing? Well, look, we're a non-reporting company. We deregistered. We filed a Form 15 saying, hey, we didn't want to be a filer anymore. There was no point in it. We were spending like 250 grand a year just in filing fees, or legal costs and accounting, And so, like, we can just take that money. We can buy back shares. We can pay off debt. We had a ton of debt. So, giving my company away was not the easiest decision in the world.
How did you even get linked up with them for them to even come in and take it?
A guy called me that I'd worked with. He said, hey, man, I got this deal. You need to look at this deal. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Because I get these calls all the time. I still get these calls. Guy, he's like, yeah, I need to take a look at this deal. You're really going to like it. And I was just not a believer. I really was not a believer. And, I kind of yes the guy to death, in his defense. Well, yeah, whatever. Yeah. I'll take a call. And so I ended up taking a call with the guys, and I was like, okay, there might be something here. All right, so the whole thing started with the goats, okay? And my whole thing was
the goats.
I remember that.
I didn't really want to sell my company, man. I wanted my company. Well, I did not sell, because we didn't sell the company. I didn't want to give up control of my company, because I had given my entire life to building this thing, and I was going to have the best comeback story in history. We were going to rebuild. We were going to come back with no debt. We were going to come back and not ever do a reverse merger. We were going to buy back all the shares, and it was going to be $500 million company by the time I'm like 50. This is what I had in my head, right? The last thing I want to do is just give control to somebody else. And I got to think, I got no capital. Like, I didn't get anything for it, like, right up front. Okay. This is all on the come for me. So, in fact, I actually put money in, okay, because I gave them a $250,000 or $200,000, whatever it was. I had to pay for the option to buy it back, but I didn't like how I was doing with the labor business. So, I put money in the deal basically when I did the deal. But yeah, so I post that, people reaching out to me, and then I'm like, okay. I remember talking to my wife. It's like, okay, here's the deal. If they have goats, which they represented that they had, I'll do the deal. And she's like, you should do the deal. If they got the goats, then do the deal. And I actually prayed about it. And I said, okay, guys, look, here's the deal. I'll do this deal. You get me on the phone with the goat herder. Okay. And you know who that is. I don't even gotta tell you. Get me on the phone with the goat herder. And if he squawks right, I'll do the deal. And so man, they put me on a Zoom call with the guy and I'm talking to him. Hell, I still got a cell phone number, and okay, man, this is legit, baby. Let's go. And I mean, there was nothing to do from then. I mean, it's like, okay, I had the specs on what the product was going to be that they're working on. And I put out a press release. It was pre-revenue. I was very transparent about all this. Anybody that says I wasn't, they're just full of it. I put out a press release. It was pre-revenue. I even put out a press release clarifying Tom Brady was not directly involved. Okay. But Alex Guerrero was, and then I talked to him and he, I'm like, okay, this is it. So, the rest of it took on a life of its own after that. I mean, Jesus, I never paid for any promotion. I never paid Stan anything. I like Stan. I know he's got kind of a, a love-hate relationship with FinTwit, right? But I like I mean, he's a hustler. He's a hell of a marketer.
Yeah, he was a former cop, right?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't have any opinions about the things that he said. I feel like I went out of my way to clarify certain things that may not have been clear, specifically, talking about Tom Brady. But after February 27th, I mean, I was really on the auxiliary, the outskirts of it at that point. I mean, I had very little say so in anything. I gave my opinions a few times, and I want to say it was early May when I was told, hey, somebody else is going to take over, this getting pink stuff. So I'm like, all right, well, whatever, man, cool. I don't deal with this shit anyways. So, yeah,
it's not like you've been a pain in the ass.
Man, it shouldn't have been. It really should have been quite simple. And this is where,
How different do you think things would have been if you guys would have went pink current?
Well, in hindsight, being what it is, the only way that probably would have happened is if we applied to OTC markets for the OTCIQ access prior to doing the deal. Hindsight being what it is. I think if we had applied before that, I think we would have gotten access and then we could have filed. So the issue wasn't, this is Ryan talking my opinion, my perception of things, which it's been a year and a half or so. So but this is my perception of things. Because I had actually started that process before the deal had even gotten underway. I'd actually applied for OTCIQ before I'd even done the deal with them. But there was like a huge delay. There was a backlog because OTC was like, yeah, if you don't register, you're going to get delisted come November or whatever, right? I mean, if you remember, that was the whole thing. There was this rush. And they didn't have the people to process all of the applications in a timely manner. So I applied, and it was like weeks later, maybe months, because I think it was January 21 when I sent in the application, maybe even December. Because I had posted on Twitter, hey, I'm going to get the company current. And I think that was in December. And so it was like January. I sent in the application. I'm like, yeah, okay, well, give me access. We'll file all this stuff. And we ended up doing the deal with the takeover guys before that happened. And then I think that is really what triggered the issue. I think OTC markets looked at that and said, okay, we got to change the control. Why you got an application? So you need to start all over. And then you start it all over, and then you got all the stock promotion going on, which the company, to my knowledge, never paid for any stock promotion, to my knowledge. Certainly not while I was in control of the checkbook. Okay. So, there's just a host of damn issues, with trying to get that done. So I think the only way it probably would have happened, at least back then, would have been if I had gotten the access before the change of control happened. I think the thing never gets to expert market where it is now. Now, they got a lot going on right now where they're working on things. And man, I can't keep up with all the legal stuff that's going on. Holy shit. I know that the product is amazing, and I know that they've got some really amazing deals with some sports outfits. And I don't know this for sure, but I hear that they've got like 7,000 or 10,000 outlets that they're going to. I don't know if that's fact or not, but I mean, they're clearly working the business, right?
Right.
So I think if they can get past all this legal drama and assuming that they're doing the things that they've said, I mean, I'm still hopeful that it's going to work out the way that I intended. Right. So we'll see. I mean, all I can do now is watch, just like everyone else.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're all wishing for success, and all I can say is, like, yeah, that was a fun time to be on the internet, to say the least.
Yeah.
If nothing else.
Like I said, I mean, there were a lot of people who made a lot of money, in that little bit there. And it was kind of, I mean, really, it was like a perfect storm. I mean, that was like that time where just, everything meme-ish was just running. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you had the whole, GameStop thing going on, and then, AMC. I mean, it was all just a wild time. People were sitting at home because they couldn't go anywhere, and just trading stocks. I mean, it was, I wish I had been in a different legal position during that time, because it would have been nice to cash out for 110, for like
very
2
nice.
days. For 2 days, I was in the top 25,000 richest people on the planet, and I'm just gonna hang on to that. And
you know what, Ryan, you got a chance to get back there though, right?
That's
So,
yeah, I mean,
on to the next thing.
yeah, I mean, so look, this thing here that we're doing, I mean, it's a high risk maneuver, right? The space that Metavesco is in, it's very high risk. I really do liken it to the .com era, when you had all these companies, and there were tons of them, okay, and most of them were gone. Well, I mean, we're not even to the point where there are tons of them, because there's only one. We're it right now, at least in terms of what we do as far as a publicly traded company. There will be more, but getting in on these protocols like Ethereum and ApeCoin, and whatever the next thing is that has some utility. I mean, man, there really is an opportunity there. And yeah, I wish I had gotten in Bitcoin in 2017, but I didn't. But I mean, we're at 20,000 and a half, 21,000, and the market is more mature. And even then, even saying that more mature is still immature, because it's a tiny fraction of the population that's in this stuff. So I think the upside is still huge. And the cool thing about being a liquidity provider is we don't necessarily need everything to moon. We just need people to trade this stuff, man. And people love trading crypto. Yeah. So, and hey, there's a whole bunch of countries you can trade crypto and there's no taxes involved. So, I mean, that's pretty great. You
go to Portugal, baby. That's the move.
Right. What about Puerto Rico? I mean, you can go to Puerto Rico. There's no tax on crypto there. I mean, so I mean, we're the middlemen of that, and I think that whole space will develop. And maybe one day we're the JP Morgan of crypto. That'd be pretty great. I mean, I mean, I'm not trying to set my sights too high, but
gotta get back in that top 25, the top 25,000,
like
Luke was saying.
I mean, you need to be
JP
about
Morgan
100.
did do it.
You need to be about 120 million. So I mean, that's a pretty big number. Yeah,
Well,
I mean, I own like 70% of the company, plus or minus. So I mean, we'd have to get pretty big for that.
On the horizon. Well, Brian, I think we're going on about an hour and a half.
Yeah, man, it's been great though. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, first of all, no, really appreciate your time. I think there's only good things in the future. MVCO, maybe just tell the people like where they can find you. I know we got you on Twitter. You got a YouTube channel going.
Yeah, so we're on Twitter. We just set up all our socials a couple of days ago. We're on YouTube. We're on Instagram. It's metavesco.eth on Instagram. We're on Facebook, and we're actually on Twitch. Now, there's nothing on most of those channels yet, but there's plenty coming. So our primary source will be Twitter. Everything will start there, and we've got a ton of content that's being worked on, and most of it's fun educational type stuff. Really, just kind of I mean, a lot of people don't know what DeFi is. Okay, well, we can spend a lot of time talking about what DeFi is, and hopefully as the conversation around cryptocurrency matures, we end up being a central part of that. At least that's the hope. Ticker's MVCO. You can look us up on OTC markets or pretty much any trading platform really.
Well, you got great share structure and a great idea. So
it's very tight.
We'll have to have you on in a few months and get an update on all this. But,
hey man, anytime. You guys have been amazing.
Great.
Yeah,
thanks
thank
so
you,
much,
Ryan.
Hey, thanks guys. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.